Okay, we should be good to go.
Okay, I call to order this, what is today? Thursday, December 14th, 2023 meeting of the Moab City Planning Commission at 6:11 p.m. Thanks to everyone who is watching, who may have been waiting. We were having some technical difficulties in chambers, but we are here now. The first item on our agenda tonight is citizens to be heard. So this typically would be something where anyone can come and speak on something that is not on our agenda this evening. However, we do have a member of the public who's here to speak on something on the agenda, who we will allow to speak on anything and then on that point and then submit written testimony. I should also say that we have all 5 planning commissioners in attendance: Carolyn Conant, Miles Lofton, Jill Tatton, myself, Kaya Marienfeld, and Mikkel Layton, as well as city staff in chambers as well. We do not have Summer, but you are having Summer's name tag.
This is Bryce Rogers, assistant planner.
Okay, hello. Bryce Rogers, Corey Shirtliff, and Anna Anglin. We also have our city council liaison, Luke Wojciechowski. And we can go ahead and do citizens to be heard. Matt, if you'd like to
Thank you.
come up, maybe like chunk it up, whatever the first thing is.
I will chunk it up. Say hello to
Oh.
everyone. Don't stare at my bald head all the time. I'll keep it short, and like I said,
real quick. Just introduce yourself first, and then maybe you said you had something to speak on that's on the agenda. Maybe do that second.
Yeah,
if there's other stuff first. That'd be great.
That's exactly what I was.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you so much for letting me speak here. I'll try to keep this in 2 chunks.
Cool.
My name is Matt Senaceros. I live at 1572 South Highway 191. We are longtime residents. My wife is 7th generation Moab. Her family, as well as her family's families, are pioneers in this area. This particular piece that we're going to speak to tonight, I'll talk to separately. What I want to talk to in Citizens to be Heard tonight is about the annexation process within Moab City. And the annexation process that happens here is absolutely ridiculous. I know more about the annexation process than I care to at this point. Corey can speak to this. With this particular project that's happening right next to me, it's forced me into a position to be able to try to speak up. And through this, it's been eye-opening, particularly, I think, to a number of commission members, public and staff, that any member of the public really has zero say in if the city wants to annex them or not. It doesn't matter. Unless you own over 1,000 acres, you have no say-so in order to be able to go against an annexation process. My suggestion to you is to please follow through on your general plan, go through with it. You have a really nice page there that has your boundary for what Moab City is. It's your pre-annexation boundary. I think it's on page 83. Within that boundary, it makes for a nice map. I can speak just as myself. I'm employed by the county. I'm the IT director. I work very closely with the sheriff's office, as well as your Moab PD. I also oversee GIS and otherwise at the county. In a number of ways, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of support for having a very clear boundary on where Moab ends and where Moab does not. And my property is a fantastic example. If you drive up my driveway, which is a private driveway that has an easement on it, in order to be able to access my property that has been annexed by Moab, that's owned by the state of Utah, I am in the county. So where my flagpole is in the county. If I stand on my driveway, I'm in the city. It depends on where I'm at when this happens. What's happening all around me, and I get very well where I bought. I have a beautiful view of the campus and everything that's happening around me. I forget the entire total count of the campus project, of all the housing that's there, but it's, I believe, several thousand households at full build out, give or take something. I mean, that's a lot of people. And we're going to be stuffing all of these people up. On my property particularly where the plan comes, the piece that has been annexed right in front of my property, I would love to, if we had a map, but it's created a very cherry stemmed type of a thing. We all hate cherry stemming in politics. If you look at Moab City's boundary, it is almost the definition of a cherry stemmed boundary. And I think legislation would actually look at it kind of oddly that we would think that we're going to continue in this way. So I've just begged you, please, as you go forward and you consider your annexations, just look at this stuff. I get what your annexation process is. It has a huge flow chart. If this, then that, or not, then here. Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for that? My concern is about public safety. Like I said, I work very closely with law enforcement every day. I drive this piece from where I live down here. I work at courthouse every day. Just driving down here, right? I mean, it was 5:45 when I came down. There are no sidewalks. There's no lighting. There's no run out lanes. There's no egress lanes. Along that section from where Aggie Boulevard is down to where, even if you want to call it Maverick, to me personally, you look all the way down to downtown, which is kind of like your city market. And you have all of these huge sections that don't have any kind of public egress. But yet we're proposing and we're approving projects right now in the thousands of households. What's going to happen when all these people show up? They're not going to be driving cars. It's a dangerous intersection as it is. I appreciate that the sheriff and UDOT has otherwise been able to lower the speed limit there down to 45. We're going to end up with a light at the bottom of the hill. We all know some of the accidents and things that have happened here. Just wait until the e-bike or the e-scooters show up. If you guys have been to a city lately, ride around on a bird scooter. They're fun. They really are. Wait till they're on a stretch of highway doing 45 with trucks with smoking brakes that are coming into town. And there's nowhere to go. And more people get killed. So if you had the annexation and you actually approved what your whole piece was, it would encompass that entire piece. It makes it real easy for legislation to be able to get at it. And with Moab City, you guys are blessed with hotspot funding. If you annexed it in, you could actually use hotspot funding instead of towards ridiculous roundabouts in the middle of the city that aren't needed, or others, and actually put towards infrastructure that's, is going to be needed. Aggie Boulevard and the campus there is going to be Moab South 2.0. The amount of people that's going to be put there is incredible. And we have just, like I said, just islands literally of county land interdispersed with city land. They both have different zoning requirements, different building permitting, grading. I mean, I don't want to pontificate, but you guys know this, right? That's my public comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And additionally, your item comment, right? We'll have
Yeah.
the same piece.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if you want me to talk to the other piece now, that's fine. I was going to let you
I was
introduce it
I
and go
think
through it.
maybe go ahead just because we don't actually have a public hearing. So I feel like procedurally it might be a little cleaner if you speak now versus on the item when the item
I
comes
think
up.
so.
Does that jive?
It's your
Corey?
discretion.
Cool. Mikkel's nodding, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
check that.
It's at your discretion, but I think that'd be,
Yeah, for sure.
I'll do
Whatever you
either.
Well, that, or would it be easier for commissioners if it was closer to the item or now?
The only ask that I might have is I would appreciate a discussion with Ms. Weinstein during my comment here.
I don't know if that would be appropriate.
I don't think
Okay.
we can facilitate that,
No
and I
worries.
apologize.
I'll
sincerely.
speak to them and I'll reach out to her separately. about it,
Okay,
if
okay,
that's
awesome, and I'm sorry, it's
No,
kind of
it's-
squishy and weird, but
That's fine. That's why I'm asking clarification.
no,
rather
I
than just
appreciate that, I do.
Logging in front of everything.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, if you'd like to, you don't have a clock running or anything, so
Cool.
go
Well,
for it.
Thank
on
you.
your-
Appreciate it. Again, my name is Matt Senoceros and I'm making a separate statement. Very specifically in regards to, I think, your first agenda statement of the project that is happening in Red Rock Flats. Is that what this is called?
Correct.
And the address is 1680,
1480 and
1480?
1490.
1480 and 1490 South Highway 191. Thank you. Again, I've spoken to this project. We live right next door. I literally looked down this piece of property. It's historically been used as a, commercial facility on the lower end. Trucking, machining, welding, it's fabricating. It's been commercial on the lower end forever. I get it. There was split zones. There's a bunch of things that went with this property. Was rezoned from the county, went from the county to this annexation process. I protested at the time. That went to a boundary commission hearing, to which we figured out actually nobody really has any standing whatsoever, unless you're like a special service district or a city or a county or something. They're kind of the only ones that can object to an annexation of it. And I brought up all of these items as well. There's a letter there that goes into a number of these points. And I appreciate staff for addressing those. And look, I'm all about the project. It's great, like, or not the project, but just, property owners. I'm not trying to stop anybody from being able to capitalize on your own property and do what you need, The only piece that I would ask in all of this is our driveway and the access past our driveway up into the Holyoke property, the GNP Holyoke property that is right behind the Revocable Tangerine Trust. And that is, from my understanding, it's only accessed up my private driveway. If you look at the map, I don't know if you can pull up a map, might be easier to be able to see, but that's real close.
Yeah.
If you just go just a little bit west, yep, right there where I'm pinned, that's my house.
That's your house, correct?
Yep. And so you can see
So you
that's
said
my driveway.
go west here?
Yeah,
Like
so
this is-
so basically all of that land, it's all vacant. All of where the greenery is right
Yep.
there, just to the west of that pin you see.
Yes.
That's up behind grandparents' house. And that's what I believe is the Holyoke property.
Okay.
And their access to that property, from what I understand, comes up and around. There should be an easement back into that property. This driveway is it's not only my driveway. We have our grandparents or grandma, sorry, grandpa just passed. She's up above us. And then just the other side, we have Kevin and Kim, and they're Kim's handicapped and it's hard to get around otherwise. We want to make sure that this driveway is kept open and maintained. And I don't really feel that it's the responsibility of myself to continue to maintain this drive, which is what's been happening. We've been dragging it, adding road base, dealing with it, maintaining that drive because it's just been access for us. As this project, particularly the annexation project, as well as the school project, as it starts creeping closer and closer from the townhomes and the phases come out there. I get that the townhomes, the backyards are going to be facing up to essentially that driveway. I don't understand why that annexation is there. Again, I'll get back in the annexation piece for just a half a second. That piece was annexed in 2012 from the state during an agreement back and forth with the campus on that possibly being the entrance into the campus. That thought ultimately was abandoned. And that annexation never got removed. That little dagger that's right out in front of my property. They just kept it. And again, it's state land. The Holyokes had gifted that to the state, just like they did with all the rest of the other campus property around it. So it kind of makes sense to keep it. My point is that the driveway is there. I'm being put into a position that I'm going to be having a lot of extra traffic up and down this driveway because of the development that's happening above me with the campus, as well as having a whole bunch of city folk right next to me off of my fence. And they're going to want to, I guarantee you, walk their dogs, go hiking or do whatever, trespass up across my property. It's forced me to put cameras up. It's going to force me to put up fencing and otherwise. And I really need to take a look at the right-of-way permitting on the way that that's working. And I'd really like to be able to push off any of that right of way permitting onto that state-owned, city annexed little piece of land there
Mhm.
and keep that all on that side. That way it allows me as a property owner to be able to put up a proper fence all the way to the front of it. You guys can help me in the regard if you'd like to. It would be a beautiful little spot. But I'm just concerned at the impact that this project particularly is going to have immediately, because they're going to be up and running well before the campus. Well, I don't know how the campus is ticking along, but I think this project will see housing before I see the townhomes behind me. And I would like, again, just to plant the seed early, that I would like to be able to work with the city, work with the state, work with the campus, work with the property owner next to us, and otherwise, I think we can come to a fair and equitable deal. I know she has a bunch of fill that she needs to remove out of that property. If we were able to take that fill and move it up to ours, we could do something interesting. It would be cheaper for everybody in the long run. We could straighten it all out. It would make for a nice, pretty easement. And it could just be an improved gravel road. I'm not asking for the city to pave it or anything big fancy. I'm just trying to, let's all stay in our lane kind of stuff.
So it's may I ask
Yeah,
a
please.
clarifying question?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the parcel map viewer actually. So
Yes.
it seems like the first part of your access road coming off of 191, that's what you're talking about, that
That entire
would
strip.
be, yeah.
Yep. So that whole piece and it flows all the way across the front of my property and across the property owners directly to my south. Kim and Kevin. I forget if it's Holyoke or Tangerine. One or the other.
Yep.
But it proceeds all the way up to that and it meets the campus parcel right there. There should be an easement. I don't totally know, just up past. And yes, there absolutely is, because I remember they had to trade for it. They split that easement, Kevin and Kim's property, with the state and otherwise in order to be able to get that. But there is a small easement that goes up that trail and to the Holyoke's property. And that's our biggest ask. Like we don't want that drive to be messed with. And if anything, we like to try to clean it up and make it better for everybody, particularly anticipating that there's going to be thousands of people congregating and possibly trespassing. I want to be the nice guy first before having to be the bad guy.
Great. No, thank you for explaining that, filling it out. We really appreciate you
Absolutely.
coming. We have, as you know, limited oversight. And
Mhm.
ultimately, things tend to rest with council, but we are the final decision authority on
Yeah,
several.
absolutely.
oversight.
Yep. And I don't expect you guys to change any sort of decision or, and
But no, it's
I
something
appreciate the
important.
project going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention. I just let it work out.
Totally.
I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure you guys will follow all of your fencing guidelines and otherwise. Because, out of my property, I'm going to be walking out and instead of being able to see the cliffs, now I'm going to be staring at a 25-foot building.
It's a big change. Like, there's no other way to put it. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
So,
But there's impacts of people, even though they're little and otherwise on my property. And
yeah,
we're just
No.
trying to respect property rights. all around.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Makes it a whole lot easier for everybody.
And please do feel free to email the commission and the planning staff with
Absolutely.
any written comments, and we'll make sure that those get into the record.
I'll
too.
go home and try to refine that big into something and send it out. But I do appreciate you guys taking the time. Let me sit in front of a microphone and tell you
Yeah, thank you. And
all my woes here for a
and
little bit.
sorry, we're
because-
sort of being dropped into it. And so it'll take a little bit for us to wrap our heads around too. So
No, it's okay. And
sorry for the blank stares that you might be getting.
I understand it, and I'd be happy to talk to any one of you one-on-one about any of these pieces.
Great. Thank you.
Annexation, properties, rights, like there's so much that's happening. And I suppose one of the underlying pieces that gets me with this, and like I said, I'm letting the project, I'm not fighting this thing. Like it's gonna happen. I get it. But there's a hotel being built right across the street that's on county property too. It's the ifs and that's, but
Wait,
I
the
don't- I-
county's building a hotel?
there's a hotel being built right now. It has a gantry crane. It's 3 stories right across from on the other side of
Sorry,
191.
I do want to keep us on track.
I
Yeah, I
I-
was gonna say,
yeah.
I'm not-
I know we're
not-
kind of getting
not-
the
not trying to-
discussion.
Curious.
Let's keep it to,
Not-
comment clean,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
can always come back to
Absolutely.
discussions.
Thank you. Not
Yeah.
trying to scroll, but please come
Yeah.
stop by at any point.
It's apartments. It's an apartment. just
No,
so
it's
you
a
know.
hotel. It is a hotel. Absolutely. It's on county property. You could ask the county building staff about it. It's in their permitting process. They're actively building it.
All right.
Take-
Well,
take-
I've
take-
derailed
take-
us now.
Take a trip sometime, drive up my driveway. You're welcome to. It's a beautiful view. I've got a great view. But all I want, I guess, is I really don't think that the citizens at large, whether you're in Moab or whether you're in Grant County, really understand the size and scope of what the campus project as well as this project and the impact that all of that has and how that's going to flow ultimately into Moab.
Totally.
Because you have Sitla on one side, you have state things happening, you've got city on one side, you've got hotel on the other side that you didn't even know of. Like, it's time for the county and the city to take a comprehensive look at both of this. And I don't think that the city or the citizens at large know what's going to happen here. And I'd really much rather give a fair warning. Infrastructure should be built before buildings get built. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
I'm gonna sit while you guys approve this.
Yeah, go for it.
Gordon.
I didn't think the county had done any overlays for OAs. They have.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Hotel
Huh.
didn't work for years.
It was
Oh.
one of the ones that was the
Was it
last-
vested?
It was the one.
Oh,
of the
good
last
gracious. Okay, that's why I was confused because I was like, I feel like I would have known if there was
That's a
something new
construct-
approved,
right.
even at the county for that, but
Full canoes.
oh, interesting. Because I was confused because there's an apartment complex on the other side of Mill Creek over there. I live right up Mill Creek by the bowling alley, so I get that turn and all the nonsense. Yeah.
And you can understand the plight of the Cherry Stone.
It's very strange.
Well, and ask any law enforcement officer too. If you're in the city, you get two options. If you're the sheriff or the city.
Sorry to do this again. I want to.
Yeah.
We got some applicants waiting.
Thanks. Sorry. I'm letting things go off the rails tonight. Thank you very much. Corey, thanks for keeping us on track.
Sure.
All right. That is all for citizens to be heard. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes from our last meeting? No, a couple meetings ago, November
Last
9th.
meeting.
Was that our last
Mhm.
meeting?
Last one.
It's gracious. This winter has been weird. From our November 9th meeting, regular meeting, I will entertain a motion. If folks have had a chance to read that, and if there aren't any changes that need to be made. Excuse me.
I'm happy to move to approve the minutes.
All
from
right.
Last meeting.
We have a move to approve the minutes by Mikkel. Is there a second?
I'll gladly second that.
And a second by Miles. Any discussion before we vote? Any changes? Okay, we can just do an all in favor if that works for folks.
Mhm.
All in favor of approving our November 9th meeting minutes. Raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Minutes approved unanimously. Thank you, folks, rolling along. Next item is an action item 4.1. Consideration of approval for planning resolution 08-2023. A planning resolution conditionally approving the Red Rock Flats Apartments Phase 1, Level 2 site plan on property located at 1490 South Highway 191 Moab, 84532. This is a briefing and a possible action. Corey, how would you like to walk us through this?
Anna, I think we'll
Or Anna, I
start,
should say.
yeah, with the project presentation. At that point, we can open up for discussion with the applicant team and owner. We have both Ryan Naylor, the architect, and Ellen Weissing, the property owner,
Great.
available. And then following that, maybe a really quick briefing on a slight amendment to the recommended motion.
Okay.
And then can open to discussion.
Thank you. Okay.
So this is where the Red Rock Flats, the proposed application is located. This was two separate lots that they combined. It's a 3-acre parcel in the C4 General Commercial Zone. It's proposed to be a mixed-use residential and multi-household apartment, 72-unit apartment development. They're planning on doing it in two separate phases. The first phase is going to be for the residential portion of it. Just a little bit of background, as you guys have already been told, that the applicant sent in for a petition to annex last April. In November of 22, a pre-annexation agreement was approved by city council, and then there were some attachments with that approval, one of which is 50% of the units would have to be active employment housing approval, or, and then excuse me, sorry, and then it was also to be zoned in the general commercial zoning district. In June of this year, city council approved the annexation. And then in July of this year, the site plan process started. And in November is when DRT found that it was sufficient, any comments were sufficiently addressed to go to planning commission for approval. So the description of the project is, again, the two-phase project, 72-unit household, 6,000 square feet of commercial space. All of the parking will be installed during the first phase. And then once this is built and they're able to get lease agreements and that type of thing, then they'll go on to the commercial phase of the property. This is basically what they're proposing to do. They're using colors that are on the earth tone side to kind of blend in with the surroundings, and then there's xeriscaping to try and conserve water. Landscape plan does show that there is going to be buffers along, especially the area that with fencing, and then landscaping along the portions of the lot that are adjacent to the residential uses. And then also even along the arm here. And so it is going to be two separate buildings that are going to be the residential units. So there are some things that we still need to get taken care of. Most of them were engineering comments. UDOT does need to have approval for the drive approach to make sure that it's safe for everyone who is using it. And then there's some issues with WISA that need to be resolved. And then we also need to finalize the active employment housing restrictive covenant agreement. And then if there's any other outstanding pre-annexation agreements, portions that have not been met as of yet, that we haven't seen yet, then those will need to be met as well. So that is all I have to say, but Corey does have some additional information from our city attorney about the restricted covenant agreement.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Anna.
I'll try to make this brief. And I sent Kaya an email. If you're connected, you'll see an email come through. It says conditional approval. So it'll have language in there that you can reference
Got it.
as we
Thank
get to
you
the end of this.
very much.
That this project is reaching out to the city about potential future annexation of an additional property. And through that, we've been evaluating the restrictive covenant agreement language. We were able to coordinate with Ellen just before this meeting. It's been really, it was relatively quick turnaround that we got this information, or that it was identified, I think, that in the language that we're looking at that is new, it was a template that we're using from this approval, but that's what highlighted the question is the attorney's understanding of how that restrictive covenant agreement and the Exhibit 2 aspect of the site plan corresponds to the rough, I know this is a lot, this is mostly for the record, corresponds to the rough proportionality clause of that for the 50% AEH requirement.
Okay.
Was specified in a way in the covenant that was not I think, being understood between the attorney and the applicant correctly. So what I'm asking tonight is that the planning commission add an additional condition of approval that the owner and applicant team confirm the rough proportionality intent in the restrictive covenant agreement as expressed by Exhibit 2 site plan to be to the satisfaction of the city attorney.
Okay.
That is to say, we were reaching out to Ellen and Ryan, the architect, prior to this in preparing our materials to generate what would be a floor plan or a designation plan of where those 50% of the units are going to go. As we evaluated those restrictive covenants, it does not call out that particular aspect. It was implied, is what we're finding out from the attorney, that it would have been on this Exhibit 2 site plan, but that's not the way the general framework of that pre-annexation agreement seems to have been drafted. It was an understanding. So that lack of clarity in that understanding led us to say, well, it's not there. So with an apartment project, the lack of designation would allow for flexibility of management of those units to move as they needed to throughout the project. And I think, Ellen, maybe if there are questions that come to you later, you can kind of clarify how that might work on your end, especially like we discussed with LIHTC funding. There's elements of how that works typically, a standard use. It's only, I think, for us important if this property were to ever advance to an ownership overlay or a mechanism of platting where those units are no longer fluid.
Yep.
They are being restricted. At that point, the designation does become important. So right
But
now,
if it's condominium,
50% is going to be 50% of the filled units. But once designation happens where that fluidity is gone, that's where it does become important. So anyway, that's an aspect that I think Ellen and I want to confirm with our attorney before we move forward on recording that covenant, but does not change the aspects of the approval that you're looking at tonight. The design, the layout, the formatting, the general standards that would be proposed tonight don't have any bearing that. This is simply a legal standard of what we want to ensure is recorded correctly. So that would be an additional condition F, if you would. Staff is recommending you include in your approval tonight.
Okay, great. So that is the condition F that Corey just sent me. And if I make the motion, I will read it. But if someone else does, I can make sure you have that in front of you to add as well. Thank you, Corey. I find the vicinity map very helpful, so everyone can figure out where we're talking about relative to what Matt was talking about earlier. Yeah. It's just that like Google Earth showing the parcels in question.
And Corey, is that sliver on that map with the gravel road running down it? What he's talking about is an easement and his access to his property?
Correct.
Was speaking about?
Correct.
Yeah, the little sliver down the right.
You'll see it. Yeah. Google Earth has it expressed as a route. So it has that gray fading route to the properties up there. But yeah, the yellow indicating lines are property boundaries.
Yeah, so the property boundaries are really interesting looking at the plat map. So the sliver, like the little strip, that's owned by the state of Utah.
Mhm.
Then you have the parcel in question. Then you have Sinisteros property, behind that Tan Greens, and then up from that Blackburn Holyoke. So this is the access off 191 that Matt was talking about, which is his property at its terminus, basically, but then the subject property for this application beforehand.
One small, the other piece of property right behind it with all the vegetation in it. That's the other Holyoke property I was talking about.
Okay.
It's kind of landlocked there,
Yeah.
and they would rely on that sliver of land, like you kind of get out of your frame, but past the last parcel
Yeah.
into theirs.
So our Matt in the audience was just saying, explaining how there's a property behind his property, behind some of the subject properties up to the sort of the northwest that would also rely on that route for access later down the way.
I'm gonna pull up the actual GIS map, okay?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Also, just for confirmation there, Corey, I'm looking at the third page of the site plan and I deliberately see them pointing out that dirt road and identifying that it's to be protected and that it will be maintained. The road will not be damaged during the process, the building process. 3 of the site plan we've given.
Page 3.
Thanks, Miles. Sorry, I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, no problem. Just wanting to make sure that that was something that's already being included in the site plan or not.
Yeah.
It's written very small. I think it
Yeah.
says protect.
Existing dirt road in parentheses, protect.
Right?
As well as my garage.
Yeah, I see the other, some of the other structures on here. Yeah.
Excellent. Gosh, that's a lot of parking.
No street parking.
Yeah, no kidding. Just park on the highway. It's
Bad idea.
fine. All right, do any commissioners have any questions for Corey or Anna or for the applicants who I believe are on Zoom?
Mhm.
I just have a curiosity question. I
Yeah.
haven't been with the county that long. And it says on April 25th, they petitioned to be in the city of Moab, but they were in the county. Why not just build it in the county? Like, what was
They
the
wanted
need for
the-
annexation?
They wanted the additional height, at our zone.
Yeah,
So
there's some more,
Oh, they wanted to build it higher than what the county allows.
correct.
And so they asked to be annexed into the city so that they could build it higher.
Correct, yeah. Typically the annexations, I would say we see, there's quite a few that are multifamily now, just because there is a little bit more leeway with regards to building requirements.
I think Ellen has come unmuted, so Ellen,
Yeah.
the chair might, Kyle, if you want to
Yeah,
inquire to the
hi,
applicant why
would
they.
you mind
petitioned.
introducing yourself just for the record? That'd be great.
Sure, I'm Ellen Weinstein. I'm the CEO of Shamrock Communities. The parcel was originally in the county, which allowed a lower density for residential housing. And we elected to annex into the city, contingent upon a pre-annexation agreement that would require the actively employed household requirement so that we could get additional density in residential and commercial and a commercial component. So
Great.
that was the reason for doing it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So yeah, the big,
Thank you.
and then in the course of that, the city, as Ellen was saying, got, I think, assurances that they wouldn't have otherwise about occupancy and the people that will live there and our AEH basically parameters applying where they would not have otherwise, which is a good thing.
Correct.
And Corey, you're saying the AEH units aren't called out? Is that what you were,
Correct. So
That's what
that
you're-
through the restrictive covenant,
right?
50% of the units will be restricted as it's an apartment design, and mostly single bedroom, with 2 bedrooms throughout. In the apartment design, there's 2 elements. Apartment design lends itself to what is fortunately a little bit of redundancy, is that it's very likely 100% of those units will be actively occupied by AEH anyway. But as far as the designation, 50% of them will always have to be verified as truly occupied by those. What this does in a lack of particular designation allows for flexibility as people are coming in and out of units that are available or needed to fill those 50% versus having particular structures, even though it's at such a big breadth and such a limited product discrepancy between them. It just allows for management flexibility within that apartment structure. So what, again, is an apartment structure within the the redundancy aspect, as well as the kind of flexibility it would allow for those people that we want to allow flexibility for. seemed that within the approval, that was what was the design was for. But as we evaluated further, this, we want to confirm that the attorney feels secure. He thought that this would be expressed through the site plan, therefore it would not have needed extra provisions within the restrictive covenant if the property were to ever convert to an ownership overlay. That's where the designation, I think, the rough proportionality breakdown does need to be expressed.
Totally. 'cause
So that's something
not
the attorney,
as variable.
I think he had an understanding that was maybe different than Ellen and I's.
So we're not trying to put all the deed restricted units in one building and
Right,
Correct.
right.
Not yet, which
That's
maybe in the
exactly
future
the
they would-
point. Yeah, is that it
Yeah.
could be flexible depending on demand versus, oh, we're booked here, sorry. But you're gonna have to compete, market, whatever. And again, as an apartment, it's all gonna be market value, kind of market flexibility anyway. But that's exactly it. We're not trying to isolate at this point.
Okay.
But in the future, it would be nice to have 50% designation secured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the explanation.
Does that track for everybody? I know it's,
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
for the record, I'm wanting to be using the correct terminology. It might be confusing.
Yeah, that's accurate. And this is how the light tech the low income housing tax credit programs work that have a certain percentage of units designated for low income housing and then a certain percentage for market. And there has to be a degree of flexibility within that structure where the designation doesn't go with the unit, it just goes with the tenant and the overall mix. And then there's generally an annual audit by the governing authority to make sure that the ratio is proportionate to the restrictive covenants.
I would sure like to make sure that it is a mix and that it's not all in one building, us in one building and them in the other building.
All right. Any other questions for staff, or the applicants from anybody before we potentially entertain a motion?
I have a ton. more.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. UDOT's not part of the DRT review, like a
They-
representative from UDOT isn't,
They are.
they are.
Have
Yeah.
And
been
what
in
did
on
they
the
say?
They're coordinating with the applicant. So I believe it's expressed in this site plan. There are limited cut abilities, and
Right.
I'm sorry to kind of summarize this poorly, but there are limited cut abilities on the highway because of the speeds and the traffic counts that they have. So, which is lended itself to why this junction between what is an existing access point for some of these residential properties being shared outside of the property boundary. So that's all being conducted in the right of way itself, which is not our jurisdiction of review, but UDOT has to go through its rounds of review and approval to ensure that it meets the traffic counts.
And
Uh,
they have been involved with us on on several of our DRT meetings on this.
Which is
Yeah.
actually part of the reason that we've had a longer DRT review with this is coordinating with UDOT to ensure that whatever they want to do in the right of way is fine, but it has to correlate appropriately to what we're designing on property, as well as with some of the neighbors, to make sure it's functioning in capacity.
But they don't have UDOT approval for what they want.
I believe this is UDOT's design. They
Yeah.
proposed the design
Okay.
to the, and now when you can check me and Ryan, is that correct that they provided this design for you? Or
I'll
with you
let,
maybe?
yeah, I mean, I'll let Ryan comment on that, but the entrance, so there's two means of ingress and egress into the site. The one that's further south, you can see is very wide and it actually has 3 lanes. There's one for ingress and there's 2 going out that have a left and a right turn. And it was purposely designed so it'd be wide enough to accommodate that dirt road that then serves the properties behind us. So that does accommodate access. So it's not actually going over our parcel, but we widened it in the UDOT right of way to give access to the that dirt road.
Yeah, Corey, it's been a combination of input from UDOT, in designating the deceleration lanes. You can see that we're adding deceleration lanes, heading to the south, there along the highway on both driveways. And then coordinating with your engineering department on ensuring that that driveway that intersects with the dirt road has, you know, some control. You know, there's a speed bump there that we're adding to slow the traffic going from our property into the right of way, and a stop sign to, you know, help control the flow there so that you don't have people coming off the dirt road conflicting with people coming out of our property. So it's been a big back and forth between UDOT engineering, our engineers, to make sure that we get a safe and, you know, proper solution for everyone.
So there's significant improvements that they have to make.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
And
What-
what was Gwissa's issue? Do we know?
With UDOT,
No, it just in the DRT review.
There's just some,
To resolve
things
any issues.
that engineering still needs to give us approval on before we can give final approval as far as them starting on the building permit
Okay.
process. But it's just more like at a fine tuning stage at this point, where all those significant issues have been addressed.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right,
What-
I'll stop. You guys can ask
I mean,
questions now.
keep it rolling.
I have a couple of other questions.
Maybe
as
we'll
well.
pepper it back
Yeah.
and forth. Carolyn, would you mind speaking more into your mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was remembering, so it looks like there's 6-foot fences proposed along the perimeter, and I was remembering the conversation that we had a couple of months ago about fence heights between different zoning types, and wasn't it being increased to 8 feet? That doesn't apply to this?
So they're vested in the former landscaping ordinance. So they were able to just meet the criteria from the old ordinance instead of the new ordinance. So they put in their application prior to us adopting the new landscaping ordinance. That's why.
Okay,
But they
Whereas-
could meet it if they wanted.
They could meet it if
But
they wanted to. They
that
could
is-
choose to do that.
Yeah, that's their
But we can't
decision.
require.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, good catch, and that will be something that, going forward more, we'll see less vested projects, and everything should apply to that new landscaping code now. So,
and then I was also noticing, I'm sure this is meeting the requirements, but the 2 ADA accessible parking spots per building seemed like a relatively small number out of the total parking spaces, and for, about 200, up to 200 people about who will be living in the buildings.
I'll let Ryan respond to that.
Ryan,
there's
did you
si-
hear that?
yeah, there's 6 shown, and I imagine we would probably lose 1 on the phase 2 when that property comes online, but I mean, we're meeting the number required by the building code based on the number of total parking stalls that are in the lot, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mikkel, back to you. I love this. I'm
But
just like-
again, they could do more if they wanted.
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
They're just doing the bare minimum.
I will say, especially for what it's worth, if it's not too late, during construction to add things, there's definitely a trend in Moab of people aging and looking for smaller accommodations, looking to sell their houses and rent. And I feel like there's definitely a market there. It might be worth considering that this won't just be students in their 20s. It could very well be retirees and parents and things like that of locals here in town. So,
Mhm.
and that would definitely help. I think that's a selling point for people looking for different accommodations, because there's a huge need for not formal senior living, but living that's appropriate for seniors in town, even if it's not something that's like a care center kind of situation. There's my soapbox for today. What you got, Mikkel?
Nobody else has anything?
Like, I was just gonna comment, so you have 6 on each side or 6 total ADA?
It's 6 total,
total.
what is shown on the
And
map
2 of
here.
those are by the little
Yeah, that's-
reception building,
That
I think.
seems really
So what
low.
Ryan was saying is that potentially there aren't any shown for phase 2, even though the parking
Right,
is going to be entirely done. So I assume that building would have some by
it
it
would have to.
as well.
I just can't,
um,
I know at the school, we don't need ADA compliance because we went to the minimum,
Mhm.
but it's always changing and we're having to add more ADA compliant
Interesting.
parking, so
It would be
I
better
would
to get ahead
advise
of it, yeah.
do it ahead of time versus try to, I mean, you can always just paint, but still it seems
The curb cuts and everything.
there's gotta be curb
yeah,
cuts
yeah.
close, but
Mm.
so I just think 6 total is too few. So,
All right.
Without comment from the building official, that is not within our purview of
Okay.
requirements for
Totally.
municipal code. So I'd be,
out of our realm.
yeah, a little,
We can still say it though.
you certainly can, of course.
could
No, I think
volunteer
that the overall, comment,
Yeah.
you know, generally through building, generally in the community, I just want to be careful about our,
Absolutely. No, of course. We're not considering that as a component of the approval that we have in
No,
front of
it
us.
seems-
To be clear. Thank you, Corey, for pointing that out.
I have just a curiosity question around the types of heating and cooling technologies that you'll have in the apartments.
There you
Yes.
Oh, go
Do you
ahead,
wanna-
Ellen.
So we are using, we have about 1,800 apartment units in design and construction phases in Utah, Indiana, and Kentucky. And we look for very technology forward mechanicals. So we're using a system called the Daikin Fit, which is a mini split system. It's ductless, and it uses about 50% less electric capacity than the traditional split systems that you'll see in apartment units. So in these apartments, you'll have a air handler that sits on a wall. It's very quiet. And then on the deck of the apartment, you'll have a small condenser. And we're finding that they're very effective with heating and cooling, but also with the cost, it uses 50% less electrical capacity than the traditional systems.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Not having apartments connected by ducts is great too. All right, let's keep rolling, folks. Just want to
Okay.
keep an eye on the time,
No,
be
that's
respectful
good.
of our staff here way after hours.
Anything else?
Okay, is that all from everybody?
All of my questions.
Okay, great. We can entertain a motion. I can make a motion if folks would like, because I do have that extra condition. Maybe that's easier. I try not to make motions myself, but let's go for it. Let me pull it up. All right. Computer problems today. Okay, as folks know, we can conditionally approve this resolution with or without modifications. We can continue or table it if we have specific direction to city staff and the applicant as to anything we might need to make the decision, or we can deny the site plan application, but giving specific findings for that decision. That said, I will move. Oh boy, this is not a stuffed up nose motion. Here we go. All right. I move that the City of Moab Planning Commission conditionally approve planning resolution number 08-2023. A planning resolution conditionally approving this level 2 site plan for the Red Rock Flats mixed use development, phase 1, on property located at 1480-1490 South Highway 191, Moab, Utah 84532, with the following conditions. 1, all outstanding comments shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the Moab City Engineer and Planning Director prior to building permit application approval, including A, noticing Moab City Planning Department once UDOT has approved access to the property. B, providing revised drainage plans addressing engineering comments. C, provide engineering department approval to GWISA and resolve any issues prior to a building permit application. D, provide evidence that the AEH, restrictive covenant agreement that was required by the pre-annexation agreement is filed with Grant County on the property prior to the building permit being issued. E, that all components of the pre-annexation agreement be met. And F, that the owner and applicant confirm rough proportionality intent in the restrictive covenant agreement as expressed by Exhibit 2 site plan in satisfaction to the city attorney. There it is.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so I made a motion, Kaya, and Jill is seconding it. Any other discussion before we take a vote?
Nope.
All right, thanks, everyone. Okay, Corey, you want to do a roll call when we're,
Sure, I will. Yeah, if we're ready. Okay, Carolyn.
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
Raquel.
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Kaya.
aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much for your comments, sir. We really appreciate it. And yeah, please continue to engage on the project, so.
You guys know where to find me.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good discussion, very good questions. I love having you on the commission.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you,
Great.
Ryan, for
It's like.
being on for
Thanks,
us
Corey.
tonight. We'll,
Thank you.
we'll follow up with you, certainly tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Ellen.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Ryan. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Thanks.
All right, moving on. 4.2, consideration and possible recommendation of resolution 02-2024, a resolution approving the South Place minor subdivision for the property located at 943 South Main Street, Moab, Utah 84532. This is a briefing and possible action as well.
Okay, so on the overhead, I have both a close-up of the property and then a vicinity zoomed out of the property map. It is
Oh,
owned by the
wow, this
Lime
is happening.
organization.
I know.
It's, it's in the general commercial zoning district. It's right by the Maverick.
Mhm.
And they are proposing to do a subdivision of the lot. One will, the new lot sizes will be half an acre and then an acre and a half for future development. On the left side here, you can see that what the existing parcel is and what the survey shows. On the right side is what they are proposing to do. They are planning on putting in circulation easements between the two properties so that they share an access once the subdivision is done. It will be owned by two separate people. One will be the state and the other will be within the Wong Corporation. Just a little bit of a background on it. There is a recorded easement on the property. You see on the subdivision plat, the proposed subdivision plat, that there is the irrigation, the 25-foot irrigation easement across the front of the property line. However, the recorded easements also have a blanket sewer easement, which means basically of 25 feet that they could choose any portion of either of these properties for the sewer easement for future development for the surrounding property.
Got it.
Just so you're aware, and then just Tiffany Herr submitted an application on behalf of the owner on October 30th, 2023. November 1st, the applicant was sent to the DRT team for review, and then on the 8th, it was discussed at the regularly scheduled DRT meeting. And then on the 22nd, we consented that it can go to planning commission for a recommendation to city council. Our recommendation is that all DRT comments shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the Moab City Engineer and Planning Director. There were a few just little minor things that they can just change on the subdivision plat before city council approval.
Thank you, Anna. I genuinely thought the Hollyoaks owned that
thought
whole
so
property.
too.
I really did.
I thought they
You
owned it all.
shocked the heck out of me saying it was JJ.
I
Wow.
know, I totally thought the same thing.
I was like, oh, look at that. And it's not even them for most of it. It's Engelman,
The
somebody?
Engelmans,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Engelmans own most of it.
Mhm.
Fascinating. This is what the parcel map viewer will
Yeah.
do to you, everybody. Do
Yeah.
we know, this is 1,000% not relevant to our consideration tonight, and I want to caveat that. Do we know what long-term plans are with that kind of subdivision, with that little strip? I'm curious.
So, yeah, we're gonna probably, it's looking like we're gonna get a new liquor store here in Moab. And then the other one will probably be a commercial type of use, like a restaurant or
Cool.
something along those lines.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
But nothing that's all speculation. There have been no
For sure,
like
yeah.
plans submitted or anything like that.
It could be
So,
anything
Yeah.
allowed in
Mhm.
that zone.
Exactly.
We are aware of that, but
Mhm.
exciting potential. I hope something like that, but
Yeah.
it's a bummer to lose the agricultural land though, of course, always. That's like the holdout cow pasture in the
Right.
city. It's kind of cool.
Sure.
Well, there'd still be like 2/3 of
I
it.
was gonna say, still a chunk of cow.
Yeah,
pasture, just
totally.
A little more commercial space.
It's very interesting. Yeah, we all just assume.
I like-
assume.
Mhm.
Well, great.
Hmm.
To the state.
I might add one additional note.
Uh-huh.
And it's more of a disclosure generally. I think what we see before us is an administrative recommendation.
Yep.
Doesn't meet the standard lot requirements, can it advance to city council? But as we've been communicating with the property owner, obviously the subdivision is intent on developing in some way, which we don't have plans for. So it's really difficult for us to ensure that wherever that lot line is going to be adequate to the purposes they need.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
without plans, we cannot guarantee that's line's going to be adequate to their degree. Is it meeting the lot line? Yes. Is it possible to develop on that property? Yes. Therefore, we are obligated to advance it. But just on record, we've had communications with the property owners and the applicants up to this very disclosure point, but to be on the record, that as we advance this, we're not advancing this in any way guaranteeing any development of any kind. Of
course,
It
yeah.
has to follow
Yep.
our development standards and regulations for approval, just like anything else would, and come back before planning commission at that time for the specific development. So.
Yep. We're
Again,
just
we all know
curious
this,
little-
it's just vocalizing it as a disclosure. But I think the owners are comfortable with that. They said, we're still comfortable with that and we want to
Great.
move forward.
with this is going to serve whatever purposes they're hoping for. All right.
Yes.
So the lot one is the half acre,
Uh-huh.
and then this is the one, lot two is next to the Maverick, is that right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just
Right.
making sure I've got my,
Yep.
Right.
All
And
right.
it's a commercial zone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so the setbacks are smaller.
On the what I call the adjacent property boundaries, yes. I think there's a front setback from highway that will be observed in that C4 zone.
I'm
But
just trying to imagine what they will put in the long skinny piece
That's what I
that
was
will
trying to say.
satisfy all the buffers and the
Right.
setbacks and whatever.
It's a zone to zone buffering.
Mhm.
Right.
Correct.
So it
Already
would be, yeah.
discussed a lot of this with them and
Okay.
they
Okay.
still want
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
proceed.
okay, so this is what.
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah.
They're so
Um,
skinny.
On the plat map,
Very.
the first thing that was so interesting was that blanket sewer easement. I was like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Like just sewer lines everywhere? Like I had to do a little digging.
Yep.
That was so curious to me. So, okay. I
So did they.
understand that
That-
now.
So like within your eye, so did ours, and our engineer brought that up as well. So that's a pretty atypical phrasing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're basically describing blanket with specified
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
aspects in Red Desert Surveying. We communicate with Lucas today as well about that, and
Yeah,
it's
we-
not something
yeah.
typically we would not advance easements in that same way today. But as it's already been written and it's continuing not, I think just through this property, but through all those properties as the larger pasture was continuing to break down,
Yeah.
corresponds equally across all those is our understanding.
Okay.
Because for Gwissa, who's across the street to meet up with Holyoke behind them, they'd have to come through somewhere, not
Mhm.
just to meet them, but to serve anybody.
That's what I think
Yeah.
they're kind of playing off of, well, we might connect onto 400 East and
Yeah.
sue it.
So they're,
Yeah.
they have. two
Or we go,
options.
All right,
Yeah,
that's
that
good.
makes
or we
sense.
go to the highway.
Interesting.
That's right.
Let's talk about that little easement across the front that said it's not an irrigation easement necessarily. It's an easement for the spring that exists and flows. Where does it flow? Where's it going?
Wouldn't it just be, they flood irrigate, don't
It's
they?
Flood Irrigation,
Yeah.
Moab Irrigation Company. I believe it's existing and there are culverts there. So it'll have to be, what we've seen is that will be protected through these easements. And then if they need to move it, Moab Irrigation Company will coordinate and they will move that through either piping or however. So they're pretty flexible.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
doesn't have to stay static, but at this time of plating, they just secure that it's somewhere and it's
Yep.
protected somewhere.
okay. So the spring comes from a different property and just flows through?
I believe there is beyond, well, it's represented in the larger parcel map. So behind this property, there is, what is more of a creek irrigation or what we call surface area irrigation. I think this is a protection area being
Okay,
reserved, not just for that, but for any field irrigation.
Okay.
Do we have any comments from Moab Irrigation or Lucas on that, Anna? I don't think there are comments.
No,
it
they
was,
didn't.
this is
Yeah.
the one I read from Moab Irrigation Company. The irrigation easement listed on the survey map is not related to Moab Irrigation. However, we did talk to the adjacent landowners, so I'm assuming
Probably the Holyoke.
Mhm,
way.
mhm.
the water flowing there is from a spring and flows all year long and must be accommodated for.
So that's what's behind this property. Is that what that's describing? That's the way I had read that.
I thought it was the
Yeah.
one
the
next to the
front?
highway.
No, that's why it says that the fencing will have to be amended before that can be installed, so the cattle
So
don't
that the
escape.
cows don't go away. Okay.
With the
25-foot easement
fantastic
is
note,
also
by the
a
way.
sewer and utility easement. Cattle can't escape. I live and die with DRT comment. Like I love to know what's going on. That's awesome. Okay.
You looking at ID team review for the
Mhm.
federal agencies?
Mhm.
All right, great. We can entertain a motion. This one's a little simpler in the packet.
Mhm.
You lucky duck, whoever's doing it.
I'll go for it if nobody has any further questions.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
we can make it and we can chat after that too.
I motion for a positive recommendation, or sorry, I move that the planning commission forward a positive recommendation to the city council on Moab City Resolution 02-2024, a resolution approving the South Place Minor subdivision of the property located at 943 South Main Street, Moab, Utah 84532, with the following conditions. One, all DRT comments shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the Moab City engineer and planning director prior to final recording.
All right, we have a positive motion from Miles. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Mikkel. Any further discussion before we take a vote?
One more question.
Yeah.
UDOT hasn't weighed in on this because there hasn't been a development.
Correct, yeah.
So
Once
none
they-
of that will be involved
Yeah.
until they decide they actually want to pull
Yeah.
some kind of
And
development.
my understanding is that the applicant has already contacted UDOT and they are working on things right now, but
State
nothing
contracted,
again. Yeah,
It's an interesting thing to approve
Mhm.
without knowing like what the
Yeah.
development will be.
Yep.
yeah.
But on principle, approving the subdivision is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's their
Totally.
piece.
Not
If
like
they
a
want to chop
zone.
it up, they can chop it up. Yeah.
It's not like a zone amendment where we're
Yeah. Yeah.
really like, okay, it could be a pig farm or it could be a,
Who knows?
C4 is
you
pretty
know,
broad, yeah.
roller coaster or a restaurant, and we don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, if we don't have any further discussion, we can do a roll call vote whenever Corey is ready.
Or,
Thanks for counting us off there, man.
yeah, Carolyn,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Kaya,
Aye.
Mikkel,
Aye.
Miles.
Aye.
All right, Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. What do we have for future agenda items in 2024?
Oh, my goodness.
No.
It just, not really anything at the moment. We've gotten,
Or is it every?
Molo just got approved, this last Tuesday by city council and the sustainability, the sustainability plan is still in the works with city council, but they're not coming back here. We are still working on the rewrite, sending out the bids and that type of thing.
Great.
But that is coming up next, but as of anything for current zoning, there's nothing in the queue.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of planning level applications, but what I think they're all broken down to is level ones where it is a planning staff approval, or it unfortunately skips you guys. It goes right to city council without planning for some plating amendment type thing. So we have some active applications, but you're gonna be the stone in the river that we work around, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah.
So moving into the new year, though, we do think, and what we've been hearing is with some adjustments in the market and what is possible lending percentage changes, that we've been hearing a lot of movement, kind of what we'll call in the concept realm. We've had a lot of architects calling, a lot of project leads, a lot of property owners are all gearing up, waiting for those numbers to be right. And then I think we will have a really big push on a number of commercial and residential projects, and possibly some residential projects that have been postponed for quite a while. So we've been sitting on for a long time. So hopefully to see those back in action.
There's a lot of earth being moved around town right now too. So it's interesting to see kind of what's starting to pop up of things that I was like, oh, I forgot
Very-
about that. That was
That's
4
right.
years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of permits that maybe have been planning approvals have gone through and then into permit phase, and then have been kind of on that small incremental improvement to keep their permits alive, not lapse. But I think we're starting to see a lot of dirt work in the town area for
Cool.
bigger housing projects. Hopefully they'll keep going.
Good to see.
I know it does feel like there's a shift. There's a shift
Mhm.
happening. Insurance, interest rates, gosh.
Bryce, is there anything
Yeah. Bryson, I
Anna
so
and I have
apologize.
missed.
For some reason, I have been getting you confused in my brain with the new parks director as well. That was me. Oh my God. It was totally me. I don't know why I had that in my brain. I know it's because both of your names start with B, and then it was just like, here we go. Yeah. They do both start with B, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was like, wait a minute. Was I that wrong? Good gracious. Oh, it's been a week. Yeah. I will apologize to her separately.
That will be exciting. Yeah. I don't know if we want to bring it up too much, but yeah, well, there's potentially a pretty significant affordable housing project coming forward. That'll be really,
agreement.
really cool.
But it's still gonna be a few months for that to get here probably.
Yeah, but they're moving quick, at least on our end. So maybe
Is that where the
maybe in
surveyors are at? on
March.
Sun Creek?
That's probably for the right-of-way improvements, my guess. Unless they were on a particular property,
They were on a particular.
they might have
property
been
Out in the green space.
eyeballing that space.
Cool.
Probably it.
Might have.
I
been.
am very excited about that
Might have
project.
been.
That's exciting.
All right. All that said, we are done. Thanks, everyone. I adjourn this meeting at 7:24 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are Oreo whoopie pies
Ooh.
Well.
homemade over there